Hey everybody, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I used to work for the mainstream media for a very long time. I worked for Global News for about 20 years off and on until they fired me when I questioned the COVID narrative. I always feel it's important to let you know that just in case you didn't know. I say it every chance I get almost. Okay, on to today's video. I live in British Columbia. British Columbia, we're having a strike at the liquor store. Mummy is finding this really depressing. I really don't do a lot of bad things. I work hard inside the home and outside the home. I do all the things I'm supposed to do, but I do like a glass of wine at the end of the night. And I do find this depressing because the liquor stores are starting to look like this. And it's depressing for more than one reason. But let's have a look. It's pretty sparse. All the sweet stuff is left. People don't really like that. Empty. Empty, but this isn't even as bad as it's getting now. Little bit empty. This is still not as empty as it could be. Lots of kokanee. Interesting. But yeah, it's when there's scarcity, it does. I don't like it. Like, it actually really bothers me and upsets me. When all the COVID nonsense was going on and you're lining up to get in a store, and the whole stupid toilet paper thing. But not only that, when there's scarcity, then people start to get greedy. People, they don't treat you like a neighbor, like nobody's a good neighbor anymore. All of a sudden everybody's literally elbows up, elbows sideways, like shoving you out the way to get theirs. Everybody wants to get theirs, and people become greedy, and hoarders. They turn into hoarders. And it does remind me, when I don't like it at all when I see store shelves like this. It really is like kind of apocalyptic. It reminds me of The Walking Dead or something, where like everybody's scratching around for stuff, right? When the economy is flourishing and there's abundance, you feel happy, and in Canada, a lot of people are very disconnected. Like, they don't think of it in those terms because they didn't grow up in a communist country. There's still so many people that don't realize they're being propagandized too. They don't realize what COVID was, and this huge, it was to destroy you and the economy pretty much, which is what they've done. And with all these things going on, I understand why people are striking. I understand why people want better wages, because it is impossible to look at Canada and look at British Columbia. I mean, people pay so much money for rent. it oh it's just awful. What is left over for disposable income, for fun, for things like that? But it is, so yeah, people want their wages to be higher, and who can blame them? Because Canada Post is on strike and others are on strike. Let's take a quick look at this CBC video.
Union members and supporters were marching in solidarity for the BC General Employees Union.
We don't think they came with really a serious offer to bargain with. And so, as a result, we're here today. We have thousands of BCG members have walked off the job here in Vancouver to join a strike with their colleagues for fair wages.
The escalating strike is now into its fifth week, and the union says more than 16,000 of its members are now in some form of job action.
Talks broke down shortly after they resumed negotiations earlier this week. The union, with 34,000 public service workers, is now asking for a wage increase of 8% in a 2-year agreement. The province's most recent offer is a 5% increase over 2 years.
It is a fair offer, it's a reasonable offer, and we're trying hard to balance two things. One is that we hugely value the work done by the public service, and the other is that the money is not there to go further than that. This is just the reality.
It's
Oh, is that right? Is that right? So they wanted, the government offered 5% over 2 years. The BCGEU wanted 8%. This also includes the hospital employees. They're on strike. The posties are on strike. Well, that's a separate union. But this liquor store strike, again, Restaurants have to buy their liquor from the liquor store, the government liquor store here. We're like totally a socialist province, you know. The cold beer and wine store gets their liquor from the liquor store. And think about hotels and little cafes that serve alcohol. Like the more the supply, the more the product diminishes that you can't get a hold of it, then it affects everybody else's sales, of course, right? And just scarcity does not breed happiness. It breeds it leads to layoffs, you know, like a guy who owns a restaurant or some sort of little shop is going to have to lay his staff off if the sales are down, if everything's down. It's just is more economic oppression. My God, didn't we learn any lessons from COVID? I know this is totally different because the workers want a wage raise, and I understand that, but you know, it just gets you, I don't know. I don't want to live this life of door dashing things and Amazoning things, and brick and mortar is closing and you don't see any stores and there's no community, you know. Part of like going out and about, even on Robson Street in downtown Vancouver, which was a very popular street, it's like, there's nothing there now. It's not to me thriving with shops and restaurants and hustling and bustling. You know, little pockets have to have a hustle and bustle, you know, nice little coffee shops and pastry shops and cute little clothing stores. I mean, but it's so hard for people to get ahead with things like that. It's just brutal. So we've got 22,000. The union said 22,000 of its 34,000 workers are now involved in job action across the province, including those from government-run liquor stores and cannabis stores, the liquor distribution branch, and commercial vehicle safety and enforcement weigh scales. Yeah, I mean, ugh. The BC LDB or another authorized importer in British Columbia enters into a purchase agreement with a U.S. alcohol producer or distributor. This agreement outlines the terms of purchase, including the type and quantity of alcohol, price, and delivery schedule. The U.S. producer or distributor ships the alcohol to Canada. The shipment crosses the border and is subject to Canadian customs and import regulations. Duties and taxes are paid on the imported goods, and yet they're just going to sit in a warehouse. You know, this is kind of what we're doing. And we've already had so much stupidity because, you know, because Donald Trump is orange and weird, people get upset with him. So we had to pull all the U.S. liquor off the shelves. So no Jack Daniels, no this, no Kentucky bourbon, no, you know, it's like, ugh, you know, and then now Doug Ford went and lost his marbles with the Crown Royal, which is a Canadian company, but one of their plants had to move to the US because they couldn't make it here, probably because they wanted to pay their employees better wages, which you cannot do here, you know. And Crown Royal you shouldn't really be crapping all over Crown Royal. You should be doing your part to help save it, to help make it better. And when you're like a premier dumping it and criticizing it the way you are, you're not helping Canadian companies and Canadian jobs. Don't you know that? Don't you get that? You can't figure that out, Doug Ford, you know? So anyway, I really hope this strike comes to an end. You know, like why? I don't even understand why these things take weeks. They have, you know, it's been 6 weeks. You can't get it figured out. Get to the table and start talking, because there's lots of people whose businesses and jobs depend on this. No business, no money. No job, no money. No consumerism, bad economy. Like a caveman understands that.